All right, it is back to Veiled Mortal time, and I just kind of wanted to talk about sex after assault. And unfortunately, I know all too well the plight of being a human being after a sexual assault. So, I guess backstory: I was a senior in high school, and I was assaulted by someone who I had actually already had sex with, but he decided at that juncture that he didn't have to ask me for it, that he could take it, and someone that I thought was a friend, and yeah, that made for an interesting final year of high school, and just kind of shaped the way, I think I was 17 at the time, kind of shaped the way I dealt with a lot of things. Then flash forward maybe 2 years later, I joined right after high school, I joined the military. And then within my first year of being in the military, I was sexually assaulted by another service member. And that was a situation where they closed down our base and everybody was kind of locked on it. And I think this person was a predator in a sense. And he went to the wrong room. There was another girl with the same last name as mine in the same quad, and he knocked on her door. And then she then in turn let him into my room because we lived in the same kind of quadrant area, which was tough. Okay, and you may say, and in some instance, I looked back on those situations like, why me? What is it about me that says, rape me, or that I'm a good target? And the thing about it is fortunately, and though both of those situations, both of the males had done this to another person, and were ultimately paid the price for what they had done, not necessarily to me, but to the other people. The first one I reported, and I think based off of the time that I had with the first time, I decided the second time I just wanted to move on with my life. I didn't want to report it. I just wanted to kind of be able to live. But anyway, which kind of brings me to the idea of sex actually after assault. And if you're watching this and you've been a victim of sexual assault, then you might kind of understand where I'm coming from. If you're watching this and you're dealing with someone who has been a victim of sexual assault, then maybe it will shed some light. It's hard. I can tell you that I sometimes feel extremely guilty for enjoying sex because I feel like I shouldn't because I'm a victim. If that makes any sense. I feel guilty for having children. And that's tied to not only the assaults, but, deaths that have happened in my family and things like that. But mentally, it has really given me this sort of, it's hard to think of sex as something very positive, because I feel like I should not be happy about it. I should not want it. I should not want different things. I shouldn't want rough sex because I was a victim of sexual assault. And if I like that, if I like these types of things and I get with a partner who knows my history, then maybe they'll think that I really wasn't assaulted and that, it becomes sex becomes something that it's very painstaking. Not necessarily physically, but it's a whole mental game with preparing yourself for these things and for enjoying them and for feeling like you're worthy or you're able to have sex because you've been assaulted. And I don't think it's hard to convey that, I think, to a partner. And it's hard to understand that as a person who has been a victim of sexual assault. I think it's important to recognize that in those instances that it was not your fault. Like you don't wear something on you that says rape me. Because in my instance, my family had a very difficult time dealing with it. My brother, who was in high school at the same time, really, I don't know the whole effects that it had on him, but I know it did something to him. My father, I know that it did something to him. My mother, in the beginning thought, kind of it was my fault. If I just tell her everywhere that I went, if I just, but I know that came from a place of fear. because there's a history there. And I definitely want to do a video on the history of assault and how this is a long chain of things that have happened. But this is about sex and assault. So what I think it's really important to do is recognize that guilt is partly because you got to forgive yourself. You know, you can't go back and play the situation over again and there be a different outcome other than who you are and what you are today. You can't go back and I'm going to say that again because I think it's part of it. You can't go back and change what has already happened. The only thing that you can change right now is the decisions that you make going forward. And you shouldn't feel guilty for enjoying something as natural as sex. It's part of why we are here on this planet. And if you're dealing with somebody that has been a victim of sexual assault and you find that, you know, having sex with them is difficult, really kind of keep that in mind, that how can something that is so sacred, that was taken from that person, be pleasurable? I equate it to my father passed away from smoking cigarettes, right? Not from cancer. And my brother smokes and it hurts me so bad. Like, it's like, why? How could you do the pain of me if I smoked, right? If I was a smoker, I would have that death attached to each cigarette. And so I would have an extreme guilt to smoking each cigarette, but I do it because it was an addiction. Do you know what I mean? And not to say that sex is an addiction, but you do it because it's something that is a part of you, and it's hard. So I think it's important that we do, as survivors, as people who in this world who have had things taken from them, understand that you're not wrong for the way you feel. There's nothing wrong with feeling guilty. Just know that guilt comes from inside of here, and that you have to forgive yourself for that situation, or else you'll find a tough time actually having healthy sexual relationships, because you can't do it without the idea of someone taking it, being there. Not everybody's a rapist. Not everybody has the intent of taking from you, and no, you didn't ask for it. You didn't. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on sex after assault. It's hard. So I encourage you, if you have dealt with it, to lift yourself up. I have my faith, and if you're dealing with somebody who needs lifting up, that you take the time to say that you can empathize with that. But it's a beautiful thing. The joy of being able to have sex, and the joy of being able to have children, and you're a human. I guess that's it. So until next time, this is Ladywood, going hard for overcoming the fears of sex after assault, and being a supportive citizen to those who have dealt with it, both male, female, and indifferent. All right, this is Ladywood saying out.